Everybody wants success. Everybody wants respect. Everybody wants the life where problems bow their heads and opportunities knock loudly. But almost nobody wants the daily work that actually creates that life, because the truth most people avoid is simple: greatness is not built in one big moment, it is built in small ordinary days that most people refuse to show up for. The world celebrates the victory, the applause, the results, but it rarely talks about the mornings where nothing feels exciting, the evenings where progress feels invisible, the long stretches of quiet effort where it feels like nobody cares and nothing is changing, and yet that is exactly where everything is built. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Strength is not noise, strength is not hype, strength is showing up when your emotions are silent and your motivation is nowhere to be found. Strength is choosing action when comfort whispers that rest would be easier. People wait for the perfect moment, they wait until they feel ready, they wait until the conditions are ideal, until the energy is high, until the world gives them permission, but the truth is the people who build extraordinary lives do not wait for perfect moments, they create power through repetition. They show up when it is boring, they show up when nobody is watching, they show up when progress looks slow, because they understand something the average person never learns: consistency beats intensity every single time. You do not need to explode with effort once, you need to show up again tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day after that. That is where real power lies. Everybody wants the results, the body, the money, the respect, the influence, the recognition, the sense of control over their own life, but very few people are willing to pay the quiet price that creates those things. Because consistency is not glamorous, it is not exciting, it does not feel like a movie scene, it feels ordinary, repetitive, sometimes even lonely. You wake up early when the room is quiet and the world is still sleeping, you do the work when nobody is praising you, you keep building even when nothing dramatic seems to be happening. And that is where most people disappear. They start strong, they start loud, they start with big promises and powerful intentions, but when the excitement fades, when the novelty disappears, when the routine becomes normal, they fade away. They quit. Not because they were incapable, not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they were not willing to keep showing up when the work stopped feeling exciting. That is the hidden test of life. Epictetus said something powerful, something that cut straight to the heart of discipline. He said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Simple words, powerful truth. If you say you want greatness, then the question becomes simple: will you do what greatness requires every single day? Not sometimes. Not when it feels convenient. Every day. Because one strong day does not change your life, but hundreds of disciplined days stacked together will create a transformation so powerful that people will call it luck. And they will be wrong. They will see the result and assume it appeared suddenly, they will see the success and assume something magical happened behind the scenes, they will see the strength and assume you were naturally gifted. But they will not see the mornings you showed up tired, the days you worked while others rested, the quiet hours where you chose progress instead of comfort. Consistency does not look impressive while it is happening, it looks ordinary, it looks repetitive, it looks slow. But over time, those ordinary days compound into extraordinary results. This is the part nobody wants to hear. The work will be boring sometimes. The process will feel slow. The results will not always appear quickly. But if you understand the nature of growth, you will not panic when progress seems invisible, you will not run away when the journey becomes quiet, you will not abandon the path when excitement fades. You will keep showing up. Because showing up is the real skill. Showing up when it is easy is normal, anybody can do that. Showing up when it is uncomfortable, when the energy is low, when the world is distracting you with easier options, that is where the difference is made. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that echoes through centuries of discipline. He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Not talk about it. Not plan it endlessly. Be it." And being it means action repeated again and again. The world is full of people who talk about their plans, people who talk about the things they will do someday, people who talk about the lives they want to build, but very few people wake up every single day and quietly execute those plans. Talk is comfortable. Action is demanding. And consistency demands action more than anything else. You do not build confidence by thinking about it. You build confidence by showing up again and again until your actions prove to your mind that you are capable. You do not build discipline by wishing for it. You build discipline by making small promises to yourself and keeping them repeatedly. That is the foundation of self-respect. Every time you say you will do something and then you actually do it, your mind becomes stronger. Every time you show up despite resistance, you reinforce the identity of someone who follows through. And over time that identity becomes unbreakable. Because consistency is not just about results, it is about who you become in the process. At first you are forcing yourself to act, but slowly something changes. Slowly the discipline becomes natural, slowly the effort becomes part of who you are. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop waiting for motivation. You simply move. Seneca once said something that explains this perfectly. He said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Think about that. Every day that passes is an opportunity to move forward. But most people let those days disappear without intention. They drift through time waiting for the perfect opportunity that never arrives. But the person who shows up every day does something different. They respect time. They understand that each day is a brick. One brick does not build a wall. But thousands of bricks placed patiently will build something that stands for a lifetime. That is how progress really works. It is not explosive. It is cumulative. One workout, then another, one focused hour, then another, one disciplined decision, then another. And suddenly the person you were 1 year ago no longer exists. Not because of one massive change, but because of thousands of small consistent actions. People underestimate this power because it feels slow at the beginning. But slow progress is still progress. And the person who keeps showing up eventually becomes unstoppable. Because time rewards consistency more than talent. Talent can create a fast start. Consistency creates a lasting finish. This is where identity begins to change. You stop seeing discipline as something you occasionally practice, and you begin to see it as part of who you are. You are not someone trying to be consistent. You are someone who shows up. No matter what. That mindset changes everything. Because when showing up becomes your identity, quitting stops being an option. And that is the moment when your future begins to transform in a way the average person will never understand. Now something else begins to happen when you make the decision to show up every single day. People start noticing, not immediately, not in the beginning. At first they ignore you, at first they assume you are just another person starting something new, another person excited for a week before disappearing like everyone else. Because that is the pattern they are used to seeing. People start things. People talk loudly about their plans. People promise change. Then slowly they disappear. But when you keep showing up, something unusual begins to happen. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and suddenly people realize something about you that they cannot ignore. You are still there. Still working. Still moving. Still building. And consistency makes average people uncomfortable, because it exposes the gap between intention and action. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That is exactly what daily discipline does. You stop talking about what you want to become, and you start living it through your actions. Every morning you rise with purpose. Every day you move forward even when progress feels small. Every time you choose the harder path instead of the easier distraction. These actions begin to build something powerful, something quiet but undeniable. Reputation. Not the kind that comes from noise or social media applause, but the kind that comes from repeated proof of character. Because when someone sees you working month after month without quitting, they stop seeing you as someone who is trying. They start seeing you as someone who is serious. Consistency builds credibility. And credibility builds power. This is the stage where momentum begins. At first it feels like you are pushing a heavy stone uphill. Every step requires effort. Every action feels small. Nothing dramatic seems to happen. But if you keep pushing long enough, the stone begins to move easier. The momentum starts building. And once momentum appears, everything changes. The same actions that once felt difficult begin to feel natural. The habits that once required discipline begin to run automatically. The progress that once seemed invisible begins to show itself clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote something powerful about this process. He said, "The impediment to action advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the struggle you face in the beginning is not blocking your progress, it is creating it. Every obstacle you overcome strengthens the discipline that will eventually carry you forward effortlessly. This is the hidden gift of consistency. It turns resistance into strength. But most people never reach this stage because they quit before momentum appears. They expect fast results. They expect immediate recognition. They expect progress to be visible within days. When that does not happen, they assume the effort is pointless. But the truth is progress is often invisible in the beginning. Like planting seeds beneath the soil, nothing appears on the surface for a long time. But under the ground, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Foundations are being built. And when those roots are strong enough, growth suddenly becomes visible. This is why the discipline of showing up every single day is so powerful. You are not just building results. You are building a system that multiplies your effort. The more days you show up, the easier it becomes to keep showing up. The more habits you repeat, the stronger they become. And over time, your daily actions begin to produce results that seem impossible to outsiders. People will start asking questions. How did you change so much? How did you build that skill? How did you become so focused? They will assume something extraordinary happened. But the truth will be simple. You showed up. Again and again. Day after day. While others waited for inspiration, you built momentum. While others looked for shortcuts, you built foundations. While others talked about what they planned to do someday, you quietly executed. Seneca said something that explains the difference between dreamers and builders. He said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Preparation is nothing more than consistency repeated over time. Every day you show up, you sharpen your abilities. Every day you practice, you strengthen your mind. Every day you push forward, you increase the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. Eventually opportunity arrives. And when it does, the world will think you are lucky. But luck had nothing to do with it. You were simply prepared. Because preparation is built through daily effort. This is where identity begins to solidify. You stop asking yourself if you feel like doing the work. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. Instead, you operate from a simple code. You show up. Whether the day feels good or bad. Whether motivation is high or low. Whether progress feels fast or slow. Because discipline is not emotional. It is a decision. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly when he said, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." He did not say go to work when it feels exciting. He said go to work because it is your duty. Because you were built for action. Because you were designed to contribute, to grow, to evolve. This mindset changes everything. You stop chasing motivation. You stop expecting the process to feel comfortable. Instead, you accept the responsibility of growth. And that responsibility becomes a source of strength. You begin to respect yourself more deeply because you know you are someone who follows through. Every promise you keep with yourself strengthens your character. Every day you show up reinforces the identity of someone who refuses to quit. Over time, that identity becomes unshakable. You become the kind of person who cannot be easily stopped. Not because you are perfect. Not because you never struggle. But because you never disappear. And this leads to the most important truth about success. You cannot lose if you never leave. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because they walk away too soon. They abandon the process before the results appear. They quit when progress slows down. They leave when the excitement fades. But the person who stays gains something powerful. Endurance. Endurance is the silent advantage that separates the extraordinary from the average. When everyone else disappears, you are still there. When everyone else gives up, you continue moving. When everyone else decides the effort is too difficult, you simply take another step. And eventually something remarkable happens. The competition disappears. Not because you defeated them, but because they defeated themselves. They quit. And you stayed. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Every great achievement is built slowly through consistent effort. Brick by brick. Step by step. Day by day." This is why showing up every single day is so powerful. Because time begins working in your favor. Every day you stay committed widens the gap between you and the people who gave up. Every day you continue strengthens your ability to endure. Every day you move forward makes quitting less likely. And eventually your persistence becomes your greatest advantage. You become someone who cannot be easily replaced. Someone whose presence carries weight. Someone whose actions command respect. Not because you demanded attention, but because your discipline made you impossible to ignore. Now the results begin to show clearly. The skill you practice becomes mastery. The body you trained becomes strength. The mind you disciplined becomes clarity. And people begin to notice. They see the progress. They see the confidence. They see the results. And they ask the question everyone asks when they witness long-term consistency. What is your secret? But there is no secret. There is only the quiet decision you made long ago. The decision to show up every single day. And that decision changes everything. Because the person who shows up every day becomes unstoppable. The person who refuses to quit becomes inevitable. The person who stays when others leave eventually stands alone at the top. And that is the real reward of consistency. Not just success, but transformation. You become someone stronger than the version of yourself who once doubted. Someone calmer than the version who once hesitated. Someone more disciplined than the version who once waited for motivation. And that transformation creates a life built on power in silence. Quiet strength that does not need attention to exist. Quiet strength that grows through daily action. Quiet strength that proves one simple truth. Show up every single day, and the world will eventually have no choice but to notice. If you made it this far, that already says something about you. It means you are not just someone who watches motivation, you are someone who is searching for growth, someone who understands that real change requires commitment. So here is a simple challenge, write this in the comments: I show up every single day. Not for anyone else. For yourself. Because when you declare that commitment, you remind your mind who you are becoming. And if this message helped sharpen your mindset, support the movement of quiet discipline, like the video, subscribe to Stoic Quiet Strength for more wisdom built on power and silence, and share this with someone who needs the reminder that greatness is not built in one moment. It is built in the quiet decision to show up again tomorrow.